Hey everybody, and welcome to our early comic review video. I'm Andy.
I'm Matt.
We're here with Infinity Flux Comics out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, and this is our video where we're going to go over about 20 of the books coming out this week we think you most want to hear about, so you're better prepared heading into your store. You know what you're looking for. Being well-informed shoppers is the best thing, is the best gift we can give you. But this is a really good week with some very big things. A couple of books we both read, because that's the kind of power it's going to take
That's right.
to cover them. So just don't forget, you can head over to infinityflux.net right now, where you can pre-order these books we're about to talk about, and also pre-order that exclusive cover that we have.
That's right.
Very exciting for that I did the cover for our Halloween Archie book. So head over there and check that out. But let's get into
Definitely.
what you're here for, the comic books. So starting off with Transformers #1. This is the big one. This is the one that, we've been waiting for since Void Rivals started.
That's 6 months ago
Well,
or so.
6 months when we kind of knew that this was coming, which it feels like is pretty good turnaround time.
Yeah.
Like it's not like a whole year after that. No, it's like 6 months, and let me just say it was worth the wait. This is fantastic. So, I'll start by saying it is new reader friendly.
Very new. It's like very Generation 1
Yeah.
centric. Yeah, for sure.
It's by the art and written by Daniel Warren Johnson, with Mike Spicer doing the colors. I think Daniel Warren Johnson doing his own like writing and art is just a perfect fit for this. He captures all the action, all the high speed chases turning into big fight scenes,
Right.
just all of that together. But you did not have to have read all of Void Rivals up till now. But it is rewarding if you had read that, if you had followed where we saw Jetfire in issue 1.
Yeah, there's a little bit of connective tissue there, but yeah, if you didn't read that, no worries.
Yeah, we do see Jetfire from Void Rivals come into this story and kind of what he was out there doing. But in this, we of course meet some classic characters like Spike, who is, I mean, from the original was he as young of a kid as he is in this? Or was
Yeah, he was young, and his father, Sparkplug, from the Generation 1 cartoons, he's in this too, but they just call him Sparky.
Yeah, yeah. And so they have a kind of iffy
Yeah,
relationship,
strained.
a little
Yeah.
strained due to something that happened in the family. But Spike wants to be an astronaut. Like that's his big dream in this. And him and his friend, what was her name? Carly, Spike and Carly, at one point go up onto what's it called, like Hanger Rock or something,
Something like that, yeah.
which is like, oh yeah, clearly,
Yeah.
to look at stars and planets and all of that. And you may have seen this scene in the backup of a lot of image books recently.
Oh, right,
in
yeah,
Void
yeah.
Rivals and stuff. They
Yeah.
showed these couple of pages, but it all changes when they crash through the ceiling and find themselves in a hangar bay full of I'm not going to say dead Transformers. They're not dead, but they are inoperable. They're
Unconscious. Yeah,
unconscious.
broken.
So that's kind of where our story kicks off with the Transformers as Jetfire returns, and some of the Transformers start waking up.
Yeah.
Both good and bad, and that's leads to some crazy action. Some of your favorite ones are there. Some of them are missing, and we don't quite know where are some pretty heavy hitters.
Right.
You'll see on some of the covers. You may ask, like, why aren't certain characters on these covers? They seem pretty obvious. Well, a lot is explained in this about where are the rest of the Transformers.
Yeah.
One way or another, they're either gone or quickly disposed of.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is all done in Daniel Warren Johnson's specific style. Big action, like the big sound effects, like you feel every punch. Every time somebody gets slammed to the ground, you feel that. Like this is a Daniel Warren Johnson book, and it fits Transformers like perfectly.
Yeah, Optimus Prime pulls off some wrestling
Yeah,
moves
he
that
does.
is pretty incredible. I don't know if we've ever seen before, but that is awesome. Uh, don't want to give away too much about this
Right,
book because it is such a fun journey, and I would say not a lot happens in the term of like story progression, other than you're introduced to kind of the current state of the Transformers,
right,
kind of what is currently going on with the Autobots and Decepticons, and then where they both end up at the end of it.
right.
They're kind of draw their
Yeah.
lines.
Yeah, we don't really know what the big story
Yeah,
is gonna be yet. Right now, it's very Generation 1 where we need Energon because we're low on power, that kind
yeah.
of thing. So it's very focused on right now, what's happening right now. What the larger story is, we don't know that yet. But that's okay because there's still so much stuff to enjoy here. It's so
It's
entertaining.
so entertaining. I got excited when certain robots started waking up, and you're
Yeah,
like, "Oh,
yeah,
that's gonna
yeah.
be good."
Oh, you know what's really cool? There's several panels, 2 or 3 or 4 panels in this where you see the Transformers, like, mid transformation, which is really cool because
Yeah,
we don't usually see that. But the way Daniel Warren Johnson draws is like Optimus Prime's about to transform into the truck, and we see like his head starts to tilt back and his arms start to go like it's like right in the middle. It's
yeah.
so cool looking.
Yeah, there's a few pages that are even surprise where the format of the page changes,
Yep.
and it's completely merited by
Yep.
the
Absolutely.
style that they're doing. But we could gush about this book forever. I'm so excited just to see all of the Energon universe.
Yeah.
Once again there's ads in the back for Duke number
Yeah.
one and
And Cobra Commander.
is it Cobra Commander or just Cobra?
Who's Cobra Commander?
Okay. Which I think it's interesting in the Duke one. It says like the birth of GI Joe.
Right.
So like, is it going to be like GI Joe Year One type thing? And on those covers, you see some Transformers
Yeah,
too,
Starscream's in the sky of the
and
Duke one.
something's in the background of Cobra
Oh, is that? I
Commander.
didn't notice
Yeah.
that.
So just very excited about this. I love it's all starting to come together to some extent,
Yeah.
but all of it is fantastic. So can't recommend enough. Transformers number one. But you got some covers to choose from. So let's show those off. We've got let me make sure I grab them all. So here's what we're talking about. There's these two covers, one with the Decepticons. You'll notice there's a big silver Decepticon missing from
Hmm.
there. Where is a certain someone? Oh man, and Soundwave in this even
Oh yeah.
uses one of his tapes,
Yeah.
and it's pretty awesome. Okay, and then we have the Autobots version of that, which a few of those show up in this issue.
We don't see all of them in this issue. I'll say
Yeah.
that, but they will be in the story. But there's only so much they can do in
Yeah,
issue 1. But
and there's certain reasons why certain characters are on this cover and not other characters. I'll say
right,
that.
for sure.
We've got this fantastic Ryan Otley cover with Optimus versus Starscream, which is really cool. We've got a full-length sketch cover, so you can get your favorite artist to draw your favorite Autobot or Decepticon or one of the other ones, one of the third parties.
The headmasters, the Terrorcons, Constructicons, the
Yeah.
Protectobots or whatever. I don't remember.
We've also got this 1 in 10 Arosina variant that we're selling for $10. We've got this Cliff Chiang variant. This is a 1 in 25. We're selling for $25. And we have this fantastic Francis Manipul cover. This is the 1 in 50 for
Yeah,
$35.
that one's awesome. I'll just say that if you are a Transformers fan, you will love this. Especially if you're a Generation 1 fan, you
Yeah.
will love this. If you are a Daniel Warren Johnson fan, you will love this. If you're a fan of both of those things, then you will double love this because it was just top notch, fantastic. Probably one of my favorite books of the year so far.
Yeah, yeah. And I think my thing is like I know a decent amount about Transformers, but I don't know everything. And like the some of the comics go on so long that they start to get into their own intricacies and
Yeah.
stuff. And it was a little hard to follow. This was very easy to get right in there, and you see some familiar
Yeah.
faces if you're not a big time fan.
And if you've been, reading the IDW stuff, this is not attached. This is clean slate.
Yeah.
So if you've been wanting to get into Transformers, do it right now because
Yeah.
this is, none of the IDW stuff is being fed over. This is ground zero, square one, whatever you want to call it.
Yep. Now the other big book we both read and we uh both needed to talk about
Hmm.
is Marvel's Gods. I feel like this book is um a what do you call it? A book that not a whole lot of people know much about,
Right.
and it needs to be explained for people to take the dive into that 9.99 book. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a pricier book.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk about this one together about what is Marvel's Gods. So I'll let you start off.
Okay. Well, the first thing you just mentioned, this book is $9.99 for a first issue. That is a lot. This is 64 pages, and there are no ads.
Yeah.
There's one ad because it's the page with the sticker for the digital code.
Yeah.
Other than that,
It's an in-house ad.
right. Yeah. Other than that, it's pure story from page one to the end. So it's twice the price of a normal comic, but it's three times the size. So just to let you know what you're getting there. This is a whole new concept. So I likened this to like when Jack Kirby did the Eternals back in
It's interesting. I
1976.
never thought about that, but it's like introducing a new compartment to
Yeah, it's not. Yeah,
the
because
new thing.
it's not just introducing new characters. It's introducing like all this new lore. So like when Kirby did the Eternals, that was wildly different than anything else in Marvel. It had its own lore, its own mythos, its own rules, that kind of thing. And that's what this is. The brand new characters. We've never heard of them before. We don't know what the stakes are and all that kind of thing. But
So it's by we're gonna say Jonathan
yeah,
Hickman,
Jonathan Hickman is the
and
writer.
Valeria Skiddy is the art, which is the art in this is
The art is
fantastic.
fantastic.
Marty
Yeah.
Gracia on colors
Yeah.
is awesome. It feels like almost like an event book when you get like, oh, this is top talent across the board.
Yeah.
This feels important. That's what this feels like for sure.
Yeah, in the Eternals comparison, one more thing. So, like, when that came out, that was really high concept, a
Yeah.
lot higher concept than a lot of the other books. And this one is too. This is high concept, different than anything else. So that's where that comparison comes from. But yeah, I mean, we meet some new characters in this. We see Win on the cover here. So to roll it back, there's two different of these godlike beings, or maybe they're
Almost organizations.
yeah, we have so there's one called the powers that be. There's another one called the natural order of things. And those are two like factions almost
Yeah.
like but they're like cosmic level godlike factions. We don't know if it's like one being versus another.
It's almost like two sides of the same coin too, because
Right.
they talk about like for every one thing you've got to have its opposite or
Right.
the antithesis of it or
Yeah.
whatever.
So supposedly they're at war, but we don't see what that looks like. We're just told that these two different factions are at war. This guy on the cover, his name's Win, so he is the sole avatar of the powers that be, kind of like a human representative.
Yeah.
But then we meet another character named Dimitri, who is a proxy to the natural order of things, and we meet another character named Aiko, who at one point was Win's wife, but she gets promoted to be one of the Centivars of the Centum.
Now there is a lot.
There's a lot of made up words.
Made up words in this,
Right.
and I feel like one of the biggest recommendations is like take the words, take them in, and then keep going. Don't stew on them for too long.
That's right, because when I was reading this, I tried to dumb it down for myself to try to pick out just like the necessary parts. Like, okay, I don't really understand who this and his and who that is, but I know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So basically, Aiko it used to be his wife. She's one of the representatives of the other faction, right? And there's this whole like Romeo Juliet thing of like, we need to get
Yeah.
divorced because you work for this guy, you work for this guy, and they're at war.
If
So
we
we have
found
to-
out that we were
Right.
still involved with each other, it would come down hard on both of us.
Yeah, definitely. So that's just a little bit of character backstory. The main crux of this book, this particular issue, is that there is this guy. His name's Cubisk Core. He's a proto mage who has his own master, who wants to take down both of those factions of godlike beings. Right. So to do that, he steals the staff of the Living Tribunal, and he's going to use that to destroy both of these warring factions of cosmic beings. In order to stop him, there comes together a conglomeration of magic users and science users. So you get Doctor
So
Strange.
I'd say this is where you get a lot of your like recognizable characters.
Yeah, you get some of these new characters.
Reed Richards, Black
Yeah.
Panther.
Yeah, you get Doctor Strange and Brother Voodoo for the magic guys. You get Reed Richards, Black Panther, Amadeus Cho, Doctor Doom's in there for the science guys, and
Yeah.
they figure out we got to do all this stuff. to go stop the bad guy, right? And again, I dumbed it down for myself because it's a pretty high concept. So while all that's going on, Win and Dimitri, they go off in another direction.
He almost does the thing of like, we're all running this way. He's like, no, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
I'm
go
going
over
the other
here.
way. And what he does is, or what the two of them do is, they bounce from one location to another, whether it's on Earth or somewhere else, and they barter one item for another. And it's
It's
kind
kind
of
of
like,
that trading a paperclip all the way up to getting like a new
yeah,
car or
I
whatever.
thought about like a side quest in an RPG
Yeah.
where you have to go get the thing so you can give it to somebody else, so they give you the thing so that you can take that. And they get one item and they take it to a guy who gives them another item, who they take to another guy who gives them another item. And it's kind of like they stair step up. And they eventually, well, kind of earlier in the quest, they get this item that they need to beat the bad guy, and then they go and do that. And it's so much more
Elaborate.
elaborate or intricate than that. But like I said, I tried to just take the bare essentials from the book because this is the beginning of it. There's more characters that we're going to meet. We're going to learn more, I'm sure, about the powers that be and the natural order of things.
Because we
And
can see, like, they talk about who they work for, but we don't visually see even
right,
what those characters are. We don't
yeah,
get names for them,
yeah,
like actual names for them. There's a lot of big concepts, but they kind of break down a really high level thing to almost street level. Because Win is a very, like, hangs out at bars
yeah,
and has very, like, human conversations, even though
yeah.
he represents a very big power.
And the reason we're talking about cosmic level godlike things is because the solicitation for this, ever since this was announced back in June or earlier than that, it said that one of the things this book was going to do is reshape the cosmology of the entire Marvel universe. Like the top level guys, we're not talking about just like, oh, Silver Surfer and Nova. We're talking about Living Tribunal, Eternity, Infinity, Celestials, like top level
Yeah.
cosmic guys. This is going to reshape the entire cosmic side of the Marvel universe. I don't really see how that's going to, just from this one issue, I don't really see how that's going to happen, but there's four more issues in this miniseries.
Yeah, and I feel like this was definitely introducing you to the characters and the concepts
Right.
rather than getting into a bigger story. Because one of the things I liked about this was it does have a pretty definitive end to
Yeah.
it. Like the event that they are taking on in this issue has an ending. Like they wrap up that story in this issue. So if you're worried that you're getting into like, oh no, oh, I've got to learn all these terms because this is going to be drug out for so long. It's like, no, you can read this one and pretty much like have a good, you know, beginning, middle, and end to
Yeah.
this story. But now you know these
I
characters.
was really surprised because they do establish something called a Babylon event, which is basically a big world ending event. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
I
kind
feel
of,
like they've seen
I think
that.
I put in my notes. It's like a crisis.
Yeah,
Like
kind
it's
of. And so the bad guy, Cubist Core, he kicks off a Babylon event because if he's successful in his plan, it could destroy the universe, right? And I was thinking, okay, so this whole 5 issue miniseries is going to be them stopping this Babylon event. No, they stop it in this one. Like this ends. This doesn't end on a cliffhanger or anything like that. So that's why I was really confused. Like, wait a minute, they beat the bad guy.
yeah,
I guess spoiler. I mean, spoiler alert, right? But I mean, it's not them beating. Knowing that they beat the bad guy in this isn't as important as just knowing like what the book is and
yeah,
like the concepts and things like that. So I was just really surprised. It's like, oh, this is going to be something even different than I thought.
yeah.
Because like I said, there's more characters to come. There's more, I'm sure we're gonna learn more about the powers that be and natural order things and all that stuff. So, but I liked it. I mean, it
Yeah,
was
it
it.
has action scenes that are really
Yeah,
fun. They kind of remind me of like a Doctor Strange
yeah,
thing that he would do. I think the characters are really likable
yeah,
and easy to follow for the most part of like who they are and what they do and kind of which side they're on.
yeah.
Um,
If the solicitations hadn't mentioned the fact that it was going to change the shape of the cosmic side of the Marvel universe, I would have thought that this was more lower level, like magic stuff, like Doctor Strange. I would have
yeah,
thought that he was on the level of Doctor Strange, but this is going to be bigger than that. We just don't know what that looks like yet. That's why you got to read the other issues of the miniseries, I guess.
yeah. So, we gave a lot of description about that, but I feel like it needed it because a lot of people had questions about what this
Yeah,
is. And, people want to know before they dive in, like, is this something that I'm going to like? Uh, I went into it thinking, like, we'll see. I don't know. I've really liked some Hickman things. I haven't liked other
right.
things. But I came out of this being like, I actually like that quite a bit more than I thought I would.
Hmm.
And I'm very interested for the next issue.
For
So
sure.
if that's any indication if you should pick this up or not, Once again, we know it's 9.99. It's a bigger issue, but I do recommend this, especially if you're kind of a Marvel reader that's looking for something new, kind of get on the ground floor of some cool new characters and concepts. I think this is a great book for really newer readers and longtime
Yeah, I mean
readers.
it's all new,
It
new
doesn't require you
characters.
knowing deep history of the Marvel universe or
Yeah, you don't
anything.
really have to know anything because it's new characters, new concepts, new rules and lore and stuff like that. And you will have questions when you're done reading it, and you're supposed to. Like, you're not
Yeah,
supposed to have all the answers after this one issue. So, yeah, I liked it. Like, I was into it.
yeah,
Still have, like I said, still have a lot of questions, but they hooked me. I mean, I was like, all
right,
right, Jonathan Hickman, good job. You got me on the hook for the next one.
yeah,
Because I want to see. I want to learn more about these new characters and this new world that they're setting up.
right. So, of course, we got some variants for this one as well. First off, we have the Edgecur variant, and that is
That is Aiko.
Echo.
Yeah. So
Um,
that's Wynn's wife slash former wife.
yeah, she's very cool. She's got some cool technology too.
Yeah.
So it's a weird mix of like magic and tech and a lot of the stuff. We have this great Scotty Young
I
cover,
love that.
which I
That
feel
one's
like
great.
when you read this, you kind of have the feeling we all kind of had when seeing this character. So
Yeah.
that one's really fun. And we have this 1 in 25 Asrar variant. It's got a bunch of your new characters on the cover, and we're selling that one for $25.
So, for example, this character right here, she's a big part of this whole story, but she's not in this issue. So there's
Yeah.
more to come. So
Yep. So, other books came out this week
yeah,
too.
they sure did. So I've got one. This is DC Ghouls Just Want to Have Fun, and sure they do. So we are now officially in spooky season. It's now October. Everybody's looking for a good spooky book to read. Everybody's wanting to get into the spirit of Halloween, and this book does just that. So we've seen books like this before. I think DC even did one last year too, where this is a book full of 8 different short stories that feature various characters. And I'm not going to go through all of them because we'd be here all day. But there is a few of these that I really like. There's one called The Shadow Over Coast City, which features Green Lantern, Hal Jordan. It's written by Kenny Porter, and the art is by Riley Rossmo. So I was like, oh,
Wow.
Riley Rossmo, sometimes his work hits, sometimes it doesn't. But it was pretty cool in this one. In this one, Green Lantern teams up with Etrigan, the
Yeah, it's
demon,
awesome.
to fight a big monster that escaped out of the science cells of Oa. And this is all this entire book is like out of continuity, right?
Yeah.
Because like Green Hal Jordan doesn't have the traditional Green Lantern ring, but in this one he does. So that one was really fun. Probably, well, there's another one called The Spoils featuring Superman, and this one was really clever because Superman goes to investigate an abandoned prison that's supposedly haunted. He's trying to get some information for a story that Lois is putting together, and he encounters this big ghost, and they fight for a while. But then the ghost actually ends up revealing that uh, well, he reveals something to Superman that he hopes will let him go ahead and like pass on fully. But what he reveals is actually pretty disturbing, and it actually kind of solves like a decades long mystery.
Hmm.
There's one called Happy Halloween, and it's Lobo and Crush. Lobo gets invited to a Halloween party, and he's, Crush, I gotta, you gotta help me find a Halloween costume. And she says, well, there's a lot of people say that you remind them of this very popular character that Hugh Jackman plays in the movies. And he's like, oh, yeah, Jean Valjean from Les Mis. And he puts that up. She's like, no, not him. And he's like, oh, you mean P.T. Barnum from The Greatest Showman. He puts that costume on. She's like, no. He's like, I can't legally say who it is, but forget all that. There's another hero who people say you look exactly like, and he ends up dressing up as Aquaman. And that's the whole Jason Momoa thing. That was really fun. My favorite one is called The Dark Bite, and it centers on Nightwing, and Dexter Soy does the art, which I love. And Nightwing finds a man who's been attacked, and he's got these two like bite marks on his
Mhm.
neck. And the investigation, it looks supernatural in nature, and it looks like one that Red Hood was investigating a while back. So they actually end up teaming up. The guy turns into like this monster, and they have to fight him. and they're able to change him back, but they don't really know who or what was behind it. And the ending is frustrating because they say, we got to figure this out, and then it ends, and it's like, oh no, you can do more. So that one was really fun too. So and there's more, right? I think I told you about four. There's four more stories too. So just a really fun book full of 8 different short stories out of continuity, featuring just some really fun characters. Robot Man's in there. Man Bat has one. You've got Animal Man, The Question. So yeah, if you like these kind of books, definitely check this one out. So we've got a couple of variants here.
Some really good variants.
Yeah, this one is the Jay Lee variant is Lobo with a Superman mask trying to get that kid's candy. And we've also got this really cool Sherman glow in the dark variant, which is really, really cool. Batman is not in this book. So don't let that fool you. Batman's not in here.
Which seems like an appropriate book for Batman to be in.
Right, yeah, and he's
That's fine. He's taking a little break.
right.
Okay, next up, I've got a big one for Star Wars fans, especially if you are a fan of the High Republic. This is High Republic Shadow of Starlight #1, and this kicks off our phase 3 of the High Republic. So, phase 1, we got introduced to kind of the time period where it's set in the Star Wars universe. Phase 2 went back 150 years before that. Well, this returns back to that first time frame. Um, with you've got Yoda there, you've got a lot of more familiar faces if you read the original run. So this is by Charles Soule and the art is by Ibram Roberson, and I thought this was super good. So this bridges the gap, even though it bridges a gap that we haven't got to the other side of yet, but this takes place over the course of a year after the end of phase 1. So phase 1 ended with the Nile, who were like space marauders destroying Starlight Beacon, which was a beacon set out in kind of the unknown regions of space as a symbol of hope and unity to kind of expand, the reach of the Republic. It got destroyed, and that really kind of set everyone on guard of like, oh, there really is a major threat coming. So the Jedi call everyone back to Coruscant, back to the Jedi Temple. So kind of the Jedi Temple is overrun with more Jedi than have ever been there at once, and they're pretty much deciding what do we do about this new threat. And so over the course of this issue, you kind of see, this is this many months after, this is this many months after, and what's going on. I feel like a lot of this story we're going to see flesh out if you read the novels, you read some of those, but this really gives you an overview. So, really interesting stuff happens. One of the first things is Yoda goes missing.
Yep.
He goes on a mission, no one knows where he is, but you do see him return with a hooded figure in tow that a lot of the Jedi can tell like radiates the dark side. So, why did Yoda do this? You do find out in this, and it's very interesting. Another thing is the Jedi gather and they use the Republic Senate where there's all the little chairs and they're in that big domed area to do this big thing, and they're implementing a new protocol, and it's called the Guardian Protocol, and we're starting to see how the Jedi are turning into the Jedi we know from like episode 1 and
Oh,
stuff.
okay.
Because in this, you see they're all very regal.
Yeah.
Their lightsabers are very meticulously crafted and beautiful. And in this time frame, they're very much about keeping the peace, but in a very pacifist way. Well, a new protocol is called that basically is like, hey, younglings can get their lightsabers way faster. If you are a Padawan, you can pretty much, do not pass no, do not collect $200, and if you can complete the trials, you can become a Jedi Knight right away. So it's like condensing the thing because they need warriors
Yeah.
out there. A lot of the Jedi are like, I don't really like how this sounds, but if you know how the prequels go and where they're already ready to like fight in a war and stuff, you see how you get there. I think a really interesting part is there's a scene where you actually see where they make the lightsabers, and the person who's head of making lightsabers is like putting finishing touches on a very ornate one, and she's like, well, this is the last one that's going to look like this. Someone's like, why? And she's like, there's a new order that came down that the lightsabers now, we've got to up production on them because with Jedi out in the field, they're going to start losing them more often. And holds up a lightsaber and it looks almost like Obi-Wan's or Anakin's or something that's very just like steel and black and stuff. and they're like, "Ooh, that's ugly," and they're like, "Well, people are going to be losing them, and we've got to get them back fast." So you're seeing the formation of what we know
I
later.
love they're treating them like their AirPods or something. Like, yeah, when they announce AirPods, oh, people are gonna lose those all the time. They're like, that
That's
was.
how it is. But we can't take the time to craft these ornate ones. We don't have, years to spend on them. So that was super cool. The mystery with Yoda is really neat. We catch up with some familiar faces from before in Phase One. If you read the original High Republic series, just a lot of really cool stuff that's setting up some great mysteries going forward. Some kind of new horrors revealed. A lot of great stuff and rewarding if you've been reading both the Marvel series and the Dark Horse High Republic books because some of those characters are
Ooh.
in this. Just big, great welcome back to the world of High Republic. And this is not a one shot. This is actually a mini series. So get in on it now. I feel like this is going to go very fast. If you've read any High Republic, definitely pick this one up. We've got some variants for it as well. So we have this is the Lee Garbett variant, which Yoda plays a very big role in this issue. And we have this 1 in 25 Marquez variant that we're selling for $30.
All right, so next for me is Blue Beetle number 2. The first issue was fantastic, and this one was as well. So, at the end of last issue, the Blood Scarab, which is that guy on the cover right there, he attacked Ted Cord, um, put him in the hospital. So that's where this issue starts, and it's cool because Ted Cord's laying in a hospital bed, and we see that Booster Gold and Fire and Ice are there with him, and Guy Gardner is there, like not physically, but there's like a green projection of him. And that's like the Justice League International. Like,
Yeah,
I thought that was cool to see
reunion.
them because we haven't seen Booster Gold in a while,
Yeah.
So, um, and Jaime is also there. He's super upset that he wasn't there to help Ted, and they're trying to, pep him up or whatever. Ted's sister, Victoria Cord, we saw her in the movie. She is investigating the attack, and I feel like she's pretty upset about it, but she's like masking her emotions and burying herself in the work of trying to figure out who attacked him because she doesn't know at this point. So all that's going on. While all that's going on, the Blood Scarab comes back and attacks Dynastes and Nitidia, who are basically the gold beetle. That's not their name, but the gold one and the green one,
Yeah.
that we saw in the first issue. He attacks them and also the Horizon, which is that alien race that's being put up in their new home, and he defeats them all pretty handily. Because we don't know who the Blood Scarab is or where he comes from or anything like that, but it does look like he's got more experience. So he beats all of them up pretty good because they're not as experienced. But then Jaime shows up to help, and the Blood Scarab says, "Not yet," and he disappears. Where does he go? We don't know. Uh, what Kaji Dot, is that the name of the armor?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It tells Jaime that Blood Scarab leaves these markings when he disappears, and I think he says something like they appear to be both like technological and mystical in nature, like magic. So
Hmm.
this Blood Scarab might not be another beetle like the other beetles are. We don't know yet. That's what you got to find out. And I want to say too that this book and some of the others that we've read have a 5-page preview in the back for the new Wesley Dodds The Sandman
Yeah.
story coming up too. So and that looks really cool too. We talked about Riley Rossmo a minute ago. He does the art in that. It looks really fun. So just a cool little preview that are prevalent in some of these. But yeah, just another really fun. I'm enjoying the heck out of these 2 issues,
Hmm.
and this one I just want to know who this guy is because he does seem really cool though. But we have our A cover right there, and then we also have this really cool Gutierrez and Guerrero variant, and there's your Blood Scarab right there. He looked
Probably
awesome.
homage of that Blue Beetle number 1
Yeah,
cover too.
yeah, that guy looks great.
Okay, before we go any further, I did want to remind you what I told you earlier. Head over to infinityflux.net where you can order these books right now that we're talking about. You can pre order books. You can set up a subscription service with us where you get your books delivered to you every couple weeks, every week, every month, whatever. And everything you pre order, you get 10% off of. And don't forget, you can use that code I love Flux at checkout and get 10% off your first order. And you can use both of those codes together. You can use your 10% off with your order and that to get super savings.
That's like double the savings.
Double the savings. Gotta love that. Okay, my next book I super enjoyed. This is the Midnite Show #1. So I believe this is a miniseries, but I couldn't find anywhere where it gave the number of issues. But it has that kind of feeling and
Yeah,
setup
it's
of a
probably like
miniseries.
4 or 5 or something.
So this is by Cullen Bunn and Brian Hurt. That's your team that did Six Gun. They did I can't remember what that book's called, but it's like Hellscape or Hell whatever. Where basically
Hello Kitty?
maybe.
Maybe.
But where they like would go into hell and like get souls out of it. They were like an extraction team for hell. Really good book, but they're a team that works together a lot. And this one is fantastic. So, uh, you're introduced to a town called Cedar Bluffs, and they are hosting a local horror movie festival. And what's funny is like it seems like a small town, and this festival like is decent, but it's what would remind you of like a decently sized local con. It's not like,
Okay.
for what they're about to do, it's not that big blown out. But they're about to show a movie called God of Monsters. And what makes this so significant is this was considered kind of a lost film. It starred the famous actor Basil Saxon, who was kind of your man of a thousand faces. He played all the horror movie characters. He was kind of known as like he wrote like how to do your own monster makeup books, all that kind of thing. So he's kind of your Boris Karloff, Bela Lugosi, something
Yeah.
like that from back in the day. But when this movie was being made, there was a huge fire on set, and this actor went missing, and the script got burned up and everything. It was pretty much considered like it was going to be his grand opus, but it got destroyed. Well, someone has found a early cut of the movie and are going to be premiering it for the first time at this film festival, which I was like, premiering something that like is that big of a deal at this kind of dinky
Right.
local film
You
festival.
gotta start somewhere.
It was cool. It's cool. People there are really excited about it. We get introduced to our characters. There's one guy who goes with his girlfriend. He's like, he wants to be a filmmaker. He's a big monster movie buff. And his girlfriend is like, they're all the same. What makes this one so special
Mm.
type thing. We meet the people who work in the movie theater, which is a guy who was like a football player, but he got injured. And he's kind of like, I don't want to talk about it now. And this the other girl that works there who wants to go out with him. You get introduced to like a lot of people in the town. It's really fun. But what happens when the movie starts to play? You see really fun scenes like cut back and forth between the movie where it feels like a classic horror movie, there's like a castle setting and all this stuff. And when a character like a werewolf shows up in it, it cuts and you see like this couple walking in the park locally, and a werewolf jumps out of the mist and just like swipes his head off and stuff. So as they're watching the movie, these monsters are starting to materialize in the town, and not just the monster but like the environment that the monsters kind of surrounded with happens there too. So you see these guys going into a grocery store and they're talking about like, we're gonna grill some hot dogs. The guy's like, do you even know how to grill? Like, nah, it can't be that hard. And they look and there's like a pile of sand. They're like, that's like a truckload of sand in a grocery store. Like, what happened? And then a mummy comes out of it. So it's
Oh, nice.
affecting the environment as well. It's really cool. And so most of this is setting up like this happening, and all leading to, of course, the big reveal of Dracula in this movie as he appears in the town as well. So we know from the solicitations it's going to be kind of about the survivors of this town and what they do to try to fight back against these monsters. But I would say this is perfect for this time of year. It's very kind of Halloween feeling, but it's also a lot of fun, even though it can be violent, it can be, scary. It's just kind of a blast to
Yeah.
to read and stuff. So I highly recommend if that's your kind of book. Uh, this is so much fun. The Midnight Show, especially if you're a fan of like classic horror movies. I know my dad would love this book. I'm going to let him read that. So definitely check this one out. We've got a couple of variants for it as well. This is the uh, Brereton variant. You see your Mr. Saxon there with all the faces that he has been.
That is so really cool. Makes me think of Hallows Eve from Marvel, but just without the power.
Yeah. And then of course, the Francavilla
Oh man,
variant.
nothing better than a Francavilla Halloween
Halloween.
book. Yeah. Oh my
It's
gosh.
just that's when all of the stars align,
Yeah.
is when he does those.
All right. So next for me is The Sacrificers #3 from Rick Remender. In this one, the first few pages are kind of introducing us to what I think are essentially the gods of this world, and they've all come together for a big gala. Like they're all like all dressed to the nines, and they're all like sipping champagne or whatever. And they're just all together. Then we see all of the kids who we saw last issue. Like the whole last issue was just all these kids being marched across the land for weeks on end until they got to the place where they were going. And at the end of that one, when they got to the place they were going, it actually looked really cool. Like there was a lot of stuff for them to play with and lots of food for them to eat. Like it looked like a paradise almost, and they were really excited. So we see them. We see them having a great time eating food and just laughing with each other. Um, and then 6 of them are chosen to have a feast with the gods, and which sounds awesome, right? Oh, you get to meet like royalty basically. But before they do that, they have to go in like to this salon type place where there's like hair, the hair things and
Dryers.
yeah, hair dryers. Um and they're all gussied up, and they're all pampered, and they're all like so excited. They can't wait. And then something gruesome happens, and I'm not going to tell you what it is, but you can probably figure out, because the whole story of this whole series is, one kid from each family has to be sacrificed to the gods in order to keep the peace across the land. So yeah, so they get really excited to go do this thing, and then yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
not going to tell you what it is, but like I said, you can probably guess. So it was really cool though. So we, I,
Really cool, huh?
yeah, I mean, no, it's not really cool, but I mean, like, it's I showed you a
Come
couple
on.
pages, like, oh, it's nice, and oh, that's not so nice, and so yeah, it's interesting. We'll say that.
Interesting, very well told.
Very well told. Yeah. So we have our A cover right there, and then we also have this really cool 1 in 15 Fang variant that we're selling for $8. Oh, and oh, yep. So that's actually kind of like, imagine like those are basically the gods of the land, but they're at this place that's full of people like that, and they're just all running things, I guess.
Okay, next up for me, a great DC book this week. It's Birds of Prey
Ooh.
#2. So it was. I hope everyone got a chance to read #1, because when I talk about how cool the art style in this is,
Yeah.
you got to know what I mean. It feels very classic. Even the coloring, everything feels retro, but in a really good way. It
Yeah.
feels like you're reading a classic DC comic. And the setup to the first issue was that Sin, who is essentially a sister to Black Canary,
Mm.
kind of like a daughter sister relationship type thing, gets taken to Themyscira by the Amazons for some reason. She kind of spells doom for something, but Black Canary gets together a team to try and get her back. And I think even because Maps, the girl from Gotham Academy,
Oh
comes, but
right,
she's from
yeah.
the future, and she's like, "Hey, you got to do this." But in this, we do see some nice flashbacks between Dinah uh, and Sin to kind of refamiliarize yourself with their relationship. It's really sweet. Involves her asking questions about Pokemon, which is just really fun. But in the current day, uh, we see basically Dinah Lance pull everyone together, all the birds of prey, and be like, okay, this is what we need to do. We need to get to Themyscira, but I don't necessarily have a way to get there. Like, so most of this issue, which it sounds boring, but it's really not, is their conversation about what their plan's gonna be. So they all kind of have things that they can bring to the table. And even Harley actually has a really good idea that at first they don't want to listen to her. But what I really liked in this is they all also have something they got to do before they go on this mission. They've each kind of got a something like an item or someone they got to go talk to that's going to help them on this mission. One of the weird things, maybe it all leads them to the same place. You'll have to read to find out. But one of the big ones is Black Canary needs to go talk to Constantine, John Constantine, and get into some of the weird world to help her out. Um, but it all culminates in kind of them setting off to do this mission, and Harley's plan to help them get to Themyscira is revealed, and it's bonkers. Of course, it would be. But she has to call in a favor too, and she's basically like, "I'm calling in this favor. If you don't do it, I'm gonna break all your fingers."
Well, that's
Yeah, and then you see who she was talking to. So much fun, so colorful, and you really care about these characters. I love Big Barda in it. Uh, uh, Cass Kane in this is fantastic. Zealot from Wildcats
right.
has a really interesting moment where she's got kind of some rules going into this, where she's like at first not willing to do it, and Dinah has to kind of talk her through it. Just really deep storytelling for it, kind of a fun, upbeat, goofy book. But highly recommend Birds of Prey #2. And we got some variants for this one as well. This is the David Nakayama cover, but he actually did two that connect.
What?
Am I
Wait, are
connecting?
they backwards?
I mean, they
Yep,
connect.
there they go.
So you gotta buy two to get the full scene, but very, very
Or
cool.
you can put them the other way if you want. Art is subjective. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, yeah, you can do however you want.
Right, so next for me is Batman number 138. This is the Gotham War Part 4. And in my opinion, this is the best part of this storyline so far and the most significant one. So, in this one, this story is no longer about Catwoman hiring a bunch of henchmen to train them to be thieves and stealing, robbing from the rich, and reducing violent crime in the city. Like it's gone way far beyond that to where now it's more about Batman more or less going off the deep end and how does the Bat family intend on stopping him. So we do learn in this one that what Batman did to Red Hood in Catwoman number 57. I thought so in that issue they fought in the street and Batman injected him with something. He passed out and Batman took him to a safe house or whatever and tied him up. And I thought that oh, he just injected him with a tranquilizer so he could so that he could capture him, whatever. No, it was much more serious than that. I'm not going to tell you what it is because it was pretty interesting reading that, but it's pretty significant. Like he messes up Red Hood pretty good. And I want to know how that is going to affect the future of Red Hood. What does that mean? How long is this going to last? That kind of stuff.
Do we get hints of why Batman's acting this way? Is it kind of what we think it is?
Well, so that's the thing is the Bat family doesn't really know, and I guess we're supposed to know. Like I'm pretty sure it's Zur-En Aw. The
Yeah.
Zur-En Aw personality is trying to rise up back to the surface because it's been part of this run since the failsafe arc, since Zdarsky took over the book. Zur-En Aw has been a presence, even if it's like in the background. We even saw in Night Terrors. There was one scene where he was about to wake up and he saw a whole bunch of different Zura and all personalities. He's like, wait, Dead Man, what was that? Dead Man's like, don't worry about it. We don't have time. So like it's been lingering in the background, and I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And he's not acting super duper crazy yet, but Nightwing and uh, Tim and a couple other characters, they do make note that Batman is becoming way more controlling than he normally is. He's being a lot more fierce and fearsome and just violent, that kind of thing. So you got all this stuff going on with Red Hood and what Batman did to him. Meanwhile, a Nightwing says we got to stop Batman. He is not himself. He is, like I said, about to go off the deep end. So Nightwing tries to access what is essentially Batman's central computer. It's the thing that connects him to all of his gadgets, like when he says, "Car, come to me," and the Batmobile responds. It's the thing that connects all that kind of stuff. So Nightwing has the access to shut all that down, to cut Batman off from all of his resources, essentially. But Damian shows up because Damian is the only one who is fully on Batman's side. He shows up to stop Nightwing. They get in a fight. Nightwing says, "Hey, Barbara, I need help." So she sends in Tim, who runs interference with Damian, so that Nightwing can then go back and try to access that central computer or whatever it is. But then Batman shows up. He's like, "I'm really disappointed in you. I can't believe you would do this to me." That kind of thing. So they start fighting as well, and their fight is really pretty savage. Like Batman, of course, he's got that robot hand. He
Yeah.
smashes one of Dick's sticks. I mean, he's just a lot more brutal with his own family than he normally would have been. So while all that's going on, we see Catwoman and Marquise and I can't remember the other guy's name. The guy that's with him. I don't remember the other guy's name. Dario, I think is what it is. Um, they say that, hey, all the henchmen that we hired, none of them are responding to any of our messages. They're disappeared. Where did they go? I don't know. We do find out where they are and what they're doing at the end of the issue, and that was super cool, super interesting. It plays into another character that showed up at the end of the last issue of Batman, which I mean I probably should say it by now, but I don't want to spoil anything. But all of that's going hand in hand. So it's just so like that character is now playing more of a role in this story than what we initially thought. So this story is like what started as, hey, Catwoman does this thing and Batman doesn't like it and they're all going to fight. It's getting way more serious now, way more sinister and dark and that kind of thing.
Personal.
Yeah, personal. It's super good. I loved this issue. I loved this part of the Gotham War. So definitely do not miss this if you're reading this because things are getting crazy. So we have our A cover right here. We got a few variants as well. We've got the Frank Cho variant. We have our Delato variant. We have our Chrissy Zullo. What are these called? The Trick or Treat variants?
Trick or Treat
Yeah,
variants,
that one's great. I love that one. And then we got a couple of incentives. This is the 1 in 25 Asamiya variant with Batman and I believe that's Tim right there. And then we also have this 1 in 50 Frank Cho black and white variant. So a black and white version of the other one that he did. Oh, and we're selling the sorry, we're selling the 1 in 25 for $15 and the 1 in 50 also for $15. Might have to double check on that one.
Maybe you have to
Yeah,
double
maybe
check.
we'll double check that price. But yeah, super great issue of Batman.
Next up for me, I've got, as you see here, I got two X books, starting off with X-Men number 27. And this Fall of X, man, for uh pretty much everything Fall of X I've read, I've actually enjoyed
Yeah.
quite a bit. It kind of reset things to a more easy to follow storylines. And it continues with this. So in this, Kate Pride uh, is now going back under the name Shadowcat like she once did,
But with a K.
but with a K, so you know it's
You know it's
serious.
serious.
She's kind of a ninja assassin
Mm.
type character now, but her job, since all of the mutants have walked through portals and left the Earth, uh, is to kind of take a census of who's left. So she's going into facilities that only she can get into, finding out who's like being taken captive, all of that. And in this, she goes into one to discover Juggernaut is still alive and is in a very I would say Saw-esque
Yeah.
situation with Cyclops. They are kind of tethered together in a very uncomfortable way. And this cover, where you see Cyclops with his eyes sewn shut, that's real.
Yeah.
That's actually in this.
You showed me that. Like I saw the cover and I was like, "Oh, that's creepy," but covers often like embellish what's in the book.
Yeah.
But you showed me that actually happens
That
in the
happens.
book. That's crazy.
He's there like that.
Yeah.
That's why when I was reading this, like, how are they ever going to come back from this? Because it's not only his eyes. There is something else up
Mhm.
that maybe sets Cyclops up as a trap in a very gruesome way. So Kitty Pryde is kind of like, I don't know how to deal with this situation, but I'm gonna figure it out. Um, and she has a plan. She tells Juggernaut, but will that go well? You'll have to see. And the other thing in this is, which I thought was a blast, is the other mutants with Rasputin 4
Mm.
and X-23, but her new title, I forgot
Talon?
Talon.
Yeah.
Those characters um, actually need information that is that Reed Richards might know. So this is a
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
fun crossover with Fantastic Four, where they go to the farm that the Fantastic Four are living at to try to get this information from Reed Richards. But this information was taken out of Reed Richards' brain by Professor X and Magneto, and they're gonna have to try to get it back. Oh, Kamala Khan's there too. Super cool issue. I was very like excited when I saw there's a big throwdown between uh Rasputin for and Ben Grimm, that they just want to immediately go after each other. Just a great issue of X-Men that really sets up a lot of like, oh my gosh moments.
What's really cool too is like you show me when they go to visit the Fantastic Four. It's in the Fantastic Four's continuity because they're on that they're out in the Midwest or whatever. It's not like when the Fantastic Four showed up in the new Captain America and they're like living in the city in their costumes. Like, wait, you shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
Like this fits with what the
Yeah,
Fantastic
Johnny
Four's
Storm
doing.
has his goofy
Right? Yeah.
mustache that he's sporting right now. It's a great kind of both working together. So that is our A cover, and that's actually the only cover I have right now. But why would you need more than that?
That's right. Oh
That's
yeah.
horrifying.
Oh,
Yep.
and next for me is what is next for me? Fantastic Four number 12 right
Speaking of
here.
Fantastic Four,
Yeah, speaking of Fantastic Four, the X-Men are not in this, but the Dinosaur Avengers are, right? So in this one, the Fantastic Four, they get sucked into this portal that's out in the woods. And they're transported to an Earth that is very, very similar to ours. And they even talk about that a little bit like, oh, did this event happen here? Yeah, that event happened here. So, like, events and everything are very, very similar to 616, except that this is a planet where humans never evolved, but dinosaurs did. So everybody on the planet is a dinosaur. So yeah, all the Avengers are still there. You've got Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Captain Marvel, Black Widow, and Doctor Strange, but they're all dinosaurs. And they even talk about how like how the buildings are scaled up for
for
dinosaurs
dinosaurs.
and how like airplanes and stuff are scaled up for dinosaurs. Like everything's dinosaurs in this. So but obviously when the Fantastic Four first get there, the dinosaurs don't know who they've never seen humans before. So obviously they have to fight because that's what you do in
Yeah.
comic books, right? But then they eventually realize, oh, it's all good. We're all on the same size. Or we're all on the same side, and not the same size, because they're humans. And but what they realize is that when the Fantastic Four was transported to the dinosaur world,
So I was about to
the
ask.
dinosaur Fantastic Four were transported to 616, and it shows for a couple panels the human Avengers fighting against these dinosaur Fantastic Four. It's bonkers crazy. Um, and then what happens is that dinosaur Tony Stark and regular or human Reed Richards, they realize that their two Earths are about to collide into each other. It sounds like a lot like an incursion from
Yeah,
Secret Wars.
Secret Wars.
And they even like the graphic they use, like had them like almost like a Venn diagram, like overlapping, and they're like, we gotta stop this. Um, so the two Earths are about to collide into each other, so they come up with this plan to push the worlds apart until the dinosaur version of another character shows up and interferes. And I'm not going to tell you who it is, but if you've seen the cover to Fantastic Four number 13, you know exactly who it is, and it's really cool. So
I haven't seen it, but I'm guessing it's like Dr. Doomasaurus or Pterodactyl Galactus or something.
Oh, that's a great name though, Pterodactyl Galactus. It's not Galactus, but now I want that just for
Yeah.
that name. Yeah. So in something that's interesting because a lot of this series, a lot of the issues in this run has been like one and done stories, but this one is a to be continued
Okay.
into the next one. So that's a little bit different. But just a bonkers story, just a lot of fun, just like this whole series has been. So yeah, you've got your A cover, this nice Alex Ross cover right there, and then we also have this Frank Miller Human Torch, and he's in a weird. I don't know why he's sitting like that.
He's like Spider-Man, his friend Spider-Man.
Yeah. So yeah, you got those two covers right there.
Okay, next up for me, just real quick, is Immortal X-Men number 16. And the main thing about this one, it does kick off a new story arc, but it's kind of like where are the X-Men since they went through the portals on Krakoa. A big thing in this too is Sebastian Shaw, who is kind of taking over Krakoa, is hunting Professor X, who is on Krakoa, and he is using his Hellfire armor.
Mm.
So, let's see.
Bless you.
Hellfire armor,
I
which is
thought you were just pausing for dramatic effect. I'm like,
yeah.
okay, Hellfire, that sounds good.
I should have waited for the reveal
Right.
after the sneeze. Which is very Iron Man looking. You have to read it to find out. But also the big thing in this is the Jean Grey series that's currently going on. Uh, it's kind of her like checking out possibilities of the past where she might have went wrong and how the X-Men get to this place. But where is she when she's thinking all that in the Jean Grey book? Well, we find out in here where Jean Grey is. Is she dead? I would say we don't even quite know that given the location. So
That's why you have to read.
that's why you have to read it. Plus, we also have this awesome Martin Brooks Apocalypse cover,
That's very
who
cool.
does play a pretty significant part at the end of this issue. And we have this really cool X-Men 60th anniversary cover with them popping right out of the screen in the 90s.
Very cool. All right, so next for me is Fire and Ice. Welcome to Smallville #2. Uh, Fire and Ice are having very different experiences in Smallville. So in this one, Ice visits some sick children in the hospital in Smallville and just loves it. And she tells she's with a friend. I don't remember the friend's name, but she says, I could live here. Like I could make this my life, settle down, have a family, that kind of thing. And she even says something interesting like, all this hero stuff, and even when we joined the Justice League back in the day, that was all Fire's idea, and I just kind of went with it. And the friend's like, "Well, what do you want?" And that's when she's like, "I kind of like this. I think this is all great." So Ice is over here doing one thing, kind of enjoying things. Meanwhile, Fire is obsessed with two things: making money on social media, which we're all trying to do that, right? But she also just wants bad guys to know that she is a force to be reckoned with, right? That she's, because in the first issue, like, she was about to take on King Shark, I think it was, and Superman just swooped in and stopped him
Yeah.
real fast, and she wants to know that, hey, I can hang with all these guys too. So she stages a fight with Ambush Bug to post on social media, and that video tanks like 12 views or something like that is what it says. But then she gets the idea. She talks to the bartender at the bar across the street from their salon. He's in a wheelchair, and she finds out that he has like 1 million views on social media or something like that, or 1 million followers on social
Mhm.
media. And he's like, "How do you do that?" He's like, "I don't know. I guess everybody loves an inspirational story, that kind of thing." So then she gets the idea. She's like, "I'm gonna invite a whole bunch of, like, what are basically Z-list villains to come live slash work at the salon with us, and we're gonna frame it as like, oh, we're rehabilitating all these bad guys." But she's also filming it all and putting it on social media. So she's trying to, like, get that clout. Like, I put in my notes, inspiration bait.
Yeah.
She's trying to just, like, get views and stuff like that. And it doesn't, it's not gonna go well. So it's just like and the villains are funny because, like, it's villains that probably have existed before, but I've never heard of, except for a couple. But it's crazy. So just another really fun. This is, and I will say that, this is more of a fun book than it is an action packed, beat 'em up book. But it's still really fun, especially if you like these characters. Then you definitely don't want to miss this. And this is the only cover I have for this one. That's just our A cover by Terry Dodson, which these have been looking great.
Next up, I've got a Star Wars double feature for you, starting off with Star Wars Darth Vader number 39. And droids that once were serving Darth Vader have now been infected by the Scourge. And Vader's going to have to face off with them. And to truly get stronger to face off against these, Vader must truly acknowledge what he really hates. Like, what is his number one thing that drives his hatred and fuels the dark side? You will kind of find out in this. It kind of alludes to it. He doesn't flat out say it, but a good issue of Darth Vader. We also have issue 39 of Star Wars Bounty Hunters. And in this one, the bounty hunters face off against Valence, who has been basically turned into the Terminator. What little humanity was left in him has now just kind of been forced out, and he is a killing machine that the bounty hunters have to go up against. Which is very fun. Continuing the Dark Droid storyline there. Got some great variants for these too. First off, we have the Darth Vader. This is the Clone Wars anniversary with Hondo Anaka there. This is by Bertov. Then we have the Darth Vader, of course, the Sprouse Lucasfilm 40th anniversary Return of the Jedi cover. This is number 37 of 40, so we're getting there. And then for Bounty Hunters, we have this one. This is 36 of 40 for the Sprouse with Luke finally seeing his father's face. We have the Zirto and Abertov cover here with Captain Rex, which is super cool. And for Bounty Hunters, we have a 1 in 25 Lasso variant that we're selling for $25.
I like that.
Yep, very cool. She's got a bunch of like little wolf cats and stuff.
Oh.
It's fun.
All right, so next for me is Doctor Strange #8, just continuing this General Strange storyline. In this one, Doctor Strange consults with the Vishanti about what to do about General Strange because he's so powerful. He's like, what can we do about him? What assistance can you give me? And they say none. You can't stop him. That kind of thing. So meanwhile, while he's doing that, Clea actually confronts General Strange so that she wants to kill him, right? So that and she wants to kill him so that Doctor Strange doesn't have to. Because in the last issue, they talked. Doctor Strange said, we can't kill him no matter what, that kind of thing. So she wants to kill him so that he doesn't have to. But it doesn't go as planned, as you might expect. And Doctor Strange then realizes that he's going to have to do something very drastic to stop General Strange because he's so unbelievably powerful. So just really good. I mean, I've been enjoying the heck out of this whole General Strange business. So we've got our nice Alex Ross, right? Yeah. That's Alex Ross, yeah, a cover right there, and then this really cool. This is the one of the new champions variants. I haven't seen those any today. I don't think. I
Mm-mm.
don't know if this is going to be one of the last of them, but yeah, if Doctor Strange had a tag sidekick, that is what he would look like. I guess
Allegedly.
allegedly.
Okay, next up for me, it is Shazam #4. So this is a really fun issue. This book is just you're reading it to have a good time.
Right.
The art's great, the writing's fun, and you'll never know what you see next. And in this one, if you remember where the last one left off, the captain, as he's now known, went to the moon to face off against the Emperor of the Moon because
I love
the
that whole sentence you just said. That
yeah,
was
because the
fantastic.
gorillas in Gorilla City said that he's planning on attacking, and so the captain goes there to face off against him. Of course, this whole time, the not gods, but the deities that are behind the Shazam
Oh, right,
acronym
right, right.
are kind of pulling the strings, making the captain do one thing or
Yeah,
another.
like demigods, I guess.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
kind of demigods. Um, and so you see a lot of them on the other side, kind of pushing him to do one thing or another. Well, when the captain confronts Queen Bee, who is on the moon, you'll have to figure out how all those working together. I see her on the cover. Zeus is rather taken by her, and so to flirt with her, he flirts through the
Oh
captain,
my gosh.
and it's a very awkward and very funny. But it's a really great issue, and of course, chaos ensues when the gorillas decide to attack the moon. Craziness happens, but also some kind of updates on the other Shazam kids.
Oh yeah.
Billy's siblings are in this, and looks like some stuff is starting to move that direction where they might be coming to help. So, very, very fun issue of Shazam, and that is the only cover I have for it available right now.
All right, so next for me is Poison Ivy #15. So this is I don't know if this story arc didn't really have a title to it. I don't know if you'd even really call it a story arc, but it's this story about her wanting to shack from Killer Croc in the swamp, and he says, "Well, I need you to help me like destroy this building because it's ruining the sewers." So this story arc. So this is the end of that whole little deal, though. And in this one, Ivy does come face to face with Peter Undine, who is the CEO of this corporation that's building this big building that's kind of destroying the environment. She comes face to face with him, and she learns the secret of the building that she's trapped in. Because last issue she felt like it was like she would go down a hallway and go down another one, and she felt like the building was like changing and moving. She learns why that is in this issue, and Killer Croc does show up to help her escape. So yeah, it was really good. I mean, like I said, the end of the story arc, I guess you could call it, but it was really cool seeing Ivy and Croc team up together. Croc's kind of a lovable guy.
Yeah,
He's a
he is.
lovable lunk. But very cool there. So we have that A cover there, and we have some variants here too. This is the Soza Micah variant right there. I like that one a lot. This is the Nakayama variant. Oh, and she like unleashes like this power too. Like, normally she looks like normal Ivy,
Yeah,
but she goes full whatever that is in this issue too.
Green Ivy.
Yeah. Oh, this is the Chrissy Zulo. This is the Trick or Treat variant. I love all of these. I should have been getting these. And then we have a 1 in 25 McKinnon variant that we're selling for $40. Harley is not in this issue, so don't let that go. Please.
And lastly, for me, we have Plot Holes #2. I didn't get to read this one as in depth as I wanted to because we had a lot of books to
Oh
read
yeah.
this week. But continuing the story of Cliff, who is thought that he was a writer until he learns that he's actually also a fictional character. Teams up with all these other fictional characters to go and save books and stories from getting destroyed by the bookworms and rewriting the stories to make them work. And this one he goes on his first edit, and he might kind of screw it up and toss the story its life basically.
Oops.
They also head to a history book about 1776 where he gets to meet George Washington, which is really fun. And we kind of learned the scary truth behind the bookworm. And this is not a cute little bookworm. Like this is a big like sci-fi monster.
Yeah. Like a big what's the thing in Dune? The sandworms?
Yeah. But we learn maybe some truth behind those that could throw a lot of what we thought we knew about plot holes to crazy lengths. So we've got a couple of covers here. We have this Howl cover. That is your vampire character on there. This is the uh, Klaus Janson cover.
That's Punisher homage, yeah.
Punisher #1 homage. We have this Roosh variant with your manga character that's really cool in here. And we have this 1 in 10 Sean Murphy black and white variant. We are selling for $10.
So I've got a couple left. Next one is Ghost Rider Annual. This year's Ghost Rider Annual. You can see that right there. In this one, this one's actually kind of cool because it works like October and Halloween into the story. Like it's part of the story. It being October and Halloween is part of this. In this one, the Hood, we haven't seen him in a while, Parker Robbins, he steals a book called Hallow Gospels that he can use to summon the spirit of Halloween. And it manifests itself in like this big, like, it almost like cocoons this town in what looks like a big pumpkin. It even has like a jack-o'-lantern face on it. And so obviously Johnny Blaze and Talia Warroad have to go stop him, but Elsa Bloodstone shows up to help them as well. So just a really cool, the three of them up against the Hood. Well, actually, I guess Talia and Elsa Bloodstone take on the Hood while Ghost Rider takes on this big like demon because the town is wrapped up in like this big pumpkin looking thing, but it eventually opens up and it becomes like these big wings and it's like this big demon that Ghost Rider has to fight. So that's just a really cool, like another good comic if you want to get into a spooky season mood. There's our A cover right there, and then this is the Greg Land variant.
It's a fun time of year for comics when they start doing their little bit of crossovers into holidays.
Yeah. And then the last one is Strange Academy Spider-Man #1. So it says #1. This is actually part 3 of the story that they've been telling, first with Miles and then with Moon Knight. And in this one, the equation tries to break into the Sanctum Sanctorum because he wants to. There's something there that he needs. Oh, it's the Book of the Vishanti. How can I forget about that? He needs that so that he can eradicate all magic in the world. He wants to get rid of all of it, and because he thinks that mathematics is superior. But Spider-Man here, Peter Parker, shows up to help them prevent him from doing that. So yeah, pretty cool. There's our A cover right there, and we have one variant here from Humberto Ramos.
Very cool.
Very cool.
It was a big week of comics with some big stuff to talk about. So thank you so much for watching. If you watched all the way to the end, leave an emoji of pumpkin.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There's a pumpkin emoji.
That's gotta be.
There's so many,
right?
Isn't there? So leave one of those down below so we know you made it to the end. And head over to infinityflux.net where you can order these books right now and do all your pre-orders, all that fun stuff. Make sure to join us on Monday. Right?
Wednesday.
Today's Monday. I was just jumping a whole week. No, Wednesday for our comics to pre-order in Flash. We're going to show off some of the books that you can pre-order by this weekend. Some exciting stuff coming up. And until then, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you.
See ya.